All right, so the next thing we are going to do, we're going to remove these fuel injector lines. We're going to remove the fuel rail over here on this side. We're going to remove these wires off of it, these plugs that is. And we're going to remove these wires here out of the way. And we're going to disconnect them from the fuel injectors. I'm not going to say which process or which order I'm going to remove them in. I'm just going to play it by ear and see what works out best. And you know, of course, you're free to do it any way you want to. The car hasn't been on in maybe about 2 weeks, so I'm not worried about any fuel pressure being built up in the lines. Although I will have some rags down to catch any fuel that may drip out. And one of the recommended things too is, which I'll show you when we get to that point, is when you remove the fuel lines from off of the fuel injectors, is to put a balloon. You see those little small kid balloons, you make like water balloons off of it. Just put it over each of the openings afterwards to prevent debris from getting in those, which seems like a smart thing to do, because a little bit of debris in there could cause you major problems down the road. Once those impurities is in that fuel line, it can start clogging up your fuel injectors. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And let's see here. I think I'll start off, make sure this is in a good position. Yep. Just popping these off over here. Again, I'm not doing any specific order. These right here just lift up and out of there. Nothing hard to help get them out of the way. And you got these little plastic, I have to believe there's 3 of them. One's underneath here, one here, one here. And you got the wires in there. You can just lift those up out of there to be able to move the wires out of the way even more, as you can see. And now at this point, I'm going to start messing around over here on these electrical wires over here. No, I think I'll go ahead and tackle that first. I'll take my thumb and that number 30 that I talked about before, and get that on out of there. Turns out this one isn't even the best one either, but it may be enough to give me enough room to loosen it. So all you need to do is start it, and the rest will come out by hand most likely. Take the thumb off. That helped me to have enough grip on it to be able to turn it. Now I can do it by hand with the socket. Now normally there's 2, one here and one back here. I've already removed that one from the last time I took it off, and getting that one back on was not in the cards. And it's really just to hold down this plastic piece that really is just a holder for these wire looms up here. So I didn't stress over it too much. I like to usually put all my parts back, but I'm also realistic too. Let's see here. You can open this one up over here to remove that out of there. You can open up these up here. Well, before I open those up, let me get these out of the track, and they just pop up out, and then at that point should be able to remove this piece down here. So that's all it is. It's something to route the wire looms on. Nothing critical except for keeping it off of hot parts. So I guess it would be critical when you think of it like that. But everything is still nice and soft and supple up here, which I like seeing that. Some people remove this. I'm not saying for what that has your cabin air filter in. I am not saying I won't remove it, but right now I can't see the need to remove it. So I won't be removing this up here just yet with the cabin filter in there. And they'll remove this bar too. That may change as I go along, but right now I don't see the need to. So we'll, again, play it by ear. So now that I have those wires out of the way, or at least up and out of the way, back here you got a plug that goes into your fuel line. You just push the little tab in and pull it out. No big deal. So that one is disconnected from the fuel line itself. Let's see here. I think I'll go ahead and take those fuel lines off. Why not? Take the low-hanging fruits first. So now I'm going to use my 17 millimeter open end, and I'm just going to loosen this line up over here, and not much. I forgot to get a rag. Let me go grab a rag and put beneath there to catch any fuel. Just a quick moment. All right. So I'll put that down there to catch the fuel. I think probably when I opened up the door before, I believe it was primed up a bit. I believe your fuel pump kicks in when you open your door, so I probably built up a little pressure in there. All right, so I'm able to do the rest of that by hand. So that's all I really need the 17 millimeter for, except for when it's time to put it back on. Now I'm going to get the 14 millimeter to get the individual ones off over here. So shouldn't take much either too. You can just go through each one of them, loosen each one. Because after you get them all loosened, then you can go through by hand and unscrew them. Let's see here. And one more. Oops. All right, now that we have that, now we should be able to take them off. Now, I'm pretty sure these are specific to each fuel injector, so I'm going to lay them down. I'll use this here and just lay them down in line with how I'm taking them off. And so I'll make sure to put them back on the way I took them off. I'm going to do the same as well with the ignition coils as well, and with the fuel injectors. The fuel injectors must 100% must go back in the exact same one that it came out of. Let's see here, I think I need to loosen that one up just a tad bit more. There we go. There we go. Yeah, the reason I'm doing this video is because even though there's some out here there for these N54 engines, they are not specific to the X6. And like there's one out there for the 7 Series that has a bigger engine bay, so you don't have to do all of what I'm going to be doing here. So it makes us X6 owners look like, oh, that's easy, until you actually get to work and realize, oh, this wasn't in the video. So I'm just moving these out of the way so I don't make a mistake and make them fall and get all mixed up or anything. So I'm just laying them up and out of the way, nice and safe. And now I'm going to come back over, and guess there's no reason why I can't go ahead and remove the fuel rail. So for that, I'm going to need, what is that? There are 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and that's where these come into place. So in order to have access to those bolts, or at least to 3 of them, you need these out of the way. And so I'm just kind of rotating them up. They're a little easier to move because this is my second time in, so I've already had my way with them. And I'm assuming that may be a 12 millimeter. Let me see. Could be a 12, could be a 13. Let's see what we got here. So we need, I guess it is not that at all. It must be a 11 millimeter. So I'm just getting an 11 millimeter. so we can get that off. So there we go, 11 millimeter. See, that's real world. We make errors like that. And I've never been good at eyeballing the bolt size anyway. I'm usually always off. Sometimes so far off, I don't know how I came up with that. So I'm initially just loosening them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And now that they're loose, now what I like to do, just to play it safe, I like to have one of these little magnetic things here with me. So when I'm taking it off, if I feel I need it, I can have it right there to help make sure I don't drop the bolt. So I'm not happy to say that I didn't lose one bolt when I initially took this apart, but that's not to say it's not going to happen this time as well. All right, 2, 3, and I'll take the extension off to get the 4th one out of there. Now, you guys out there who are sticklers for things, don't go giving my video a thumbs down because I don't do something the way you do it. It's all, as far as I'm concerned, it's about getting it done. If it's done right, or, oops, here it is right now. That's the reason why I have this, just to make sure I get it. Goodness gracious. It's right there. All right, came in handy. And so I'll take those 4 and set them off to the side. Get the extra tools from up there so I'm not messing up the plastics. And I'll set those over. These down. All right. And get that 14 out of the way. So now the fuel rail should be ready to come on out. And there we go. Here's your fuel rail. The electrical plug was back here. Those are for the 4 bolts that I just took out. And that's it. So, let's see here. Now we got that out. And I'll set that someplace clean out of the way, nice and safe. Hopefully not to get debris in that as well. We'll put it up high. Better change that up because fuel is dripping out of it. There we go. All right. Now back to the job at hand. Next thing we want to do is disconnect. Let me zoom in there. Get you guys a bit closer. This is just my iPhone, so the zoom is only so close. So on here, you have 2 things you wanna get to, right here and right here. So for each injector, you got this black plug, and for every 2 injectors, you got this wire that needs to be removed. Now the black plug is the one that's a little bit more difficult, a little bit more tedious, at least the way I do it. Again, I saw a video where a guy kind of just bent it to the forward or backwards and he just pulled it out by the wires. I won't do that in a million years. You can do it if you want to. Now there's this little sleeve that's on here. I thought I would never get those back on, but they actually went back on pretty easy. But I just take my picks for this. I use my picks on this. So I open up one of the sleeves, and then I'll slide that sleeve out of the way, and then I will close it back as not to lose it. So it'll still be on there. I think it's just a secondary latch to keep the wire in. And then there's a little wire down in here. So I peel that out, and that's where my needle nose will come into play to help me from not pulling on the wire, because it's very tempting to just pull it on the wire to get it on out of there, especially that number 6 one. But if you do it right, it'll come out like that, and you won't be crying after the fact. So I'm going to go through and do each one of these. Again, if I have the fast forward, I'll do that. Let's see here. So I'm just taking the sleeves off of it. I think for some that comes off, I'll just set them to the side. All right, for the sleeves. And whichever ones don't come off, I'll just snap them back in close so they won't fall off. And of course, you guys, if I wasn't able to fast forward these, make it go, 5 times the speed doing this tedious part, feel free to fast forward on your own. Now the last one back there, that's a pain to get to, but I'm probably going to disconnect this over here from the valve cover before I attempt to move that one, because there's just a little room back there. So for right now, I'll work on getting these off. So I'm going to use my little pick and my needle nose, because I also don't want to break the clip at the same time either, because when the baby is shaking and moving around and starting up, I don't want it to work its way out. So I think it's better to just take your time. And make sure you know what you're holding. You don't want to think you're holding the wire and the plug, but you got another wire from something else up in there, and cause you to break a wire for some reason. And I have to admit, I'm doing it much quicker than I did the first time. So if this is going to be your first time, it may take you a little longer to do it, which is fine, as long as you do it right. You're running about my accent. I'm from the Midwest here in Wisconsin. That's why I got my funny accent. Let's see here. Now I'm going to disconnect these brown wires from between every 2 fuel injector. All right. Let's see here where it is. Just leave it there. Ah, here it is. It's on the table where it's supposed to be at. So I'm just going to loosen it, because I don't want to lose that little nut. Let's see here. I got 1, 2, and I should have 1 more. I got to get back there. I think I'll deal with that one too once I move that one. But I think I may be able to go ahead and at least loosen it. Patience is the biggest thing with this, because if you're going to break something, it's going to be because you were being impatient. I mean, except for it being brittle as hell too. All right. Wrong one. There we go. All right. Now, what I want to do, I want to take the, what's this, my 8mm? And no, I won't use the 8mm. Instead, I'm going to use my magnet, just to be here for safe keepings. And I'm going to unscrew it. Let me see something. Make sure this is even a magnetic. I know some, yep, okay. I know some of those aren't magnetic. So I got one of those off. And what I've been doing as far, well, I'll keep it off. Originally, what I did once I took it off, so now the little eyelet can come off, but when I took the little nut off, I screwed it back on just so I wouldn't lose it. But I feel safe putting it to the side this time. And so got my magnet next to it as I pull it off, and there we go. Number 2. And take the eyelet off. That one out of there. And now number 3. What I was saying about you guys who like to, or the sticklers, you know, I got my nothing but respect for you guys, but some of us guys, we just get in there and we just do it. Sometimes things don't turn out the way they're supposed to be, you know, and we accept that risk. But I would say that overall, I don't always do everything by the book, and been working out pretty good for me for the most part. I've had some mess ups in the past, don't get me wrong, but you know, that's just part of the process of learning, right? And you know, doing things your own way. All right. Perfect. So this really comes in handy, this little magnet. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have dropped at least 1 or 2 of those puppies. All right, so I got most of those off. Now I'm going to go back in with my needle nose and try to get number 5 of the black wires out of there. Let's see here. I think I'm going to use the straight pick for that, to be able to slide it down on the side to lift that up, that little tab. And you'll be able to see it once you get in there. You'll know what I'm talking about. None of this is really brain science. It's just brain surgery. It's just again, just patience. And there we go. It's out. And some people like to scare you. Oh, it's a BMW. Oh, it's a German-made car. Oh, you got to take it to the dealership. Oh, you got to take it to a mechanic who knows. And again, I got nothing but tall respect for those guys, but they want $1,600 to replace your valve cover gasket. And I'm not sure, no, I don't know about you, but valve cover gaskets aren't the most difficult things to replace. And the only reason why this isn't replaced already is simply because of this stupid design of having this sticking over there. And so now it's about just finding a good workaround for that, and hopefully removing the number 5 and the number 6 will be my workaround. If it is, you know, I'll be happy and successful, and then I will save myself $1,600. You know, that's what I'm all about. Is I don't like to give money to somebody when I don't have to. I don't like to have somebody else do something for me when I can do it on my own. And I'm talking too much. You guys don't want to hear me talk. You guys want to see me work.